So basically what we're going to do is we're going to make some really cool lime salt. And it's all it is. It's just what it sounds. It's salt with lime flavor, and it's all natural and just pure goodness. So we're going to take some regular old sea salt, coarse granulated. You buy them in the little the grinders for a buck or two. And all we're going to do is we're going to empty them out onto onto any kind of tray, preferably plastic. I mean, sometimes you like Teflon or everything. Salt is corrosive for anything. So even if you have some micro abrasions in your Teflon, it could even, delaminate your Teflon. Basically, what we're going to do is we're just going to, we're going to spread this out really good. And we're actually going to put it in the freezer to cool this off because, when we put the lime in, we don't want it to dissolve. So all we're going to do now that we've had it in the freezer and everything's cold, we're going to take some limes and just basically cut them up and squeeze them out onto here. The limes we got really didn't have a ton of juice. Usually you have a bit more, so you don't really have to necessarily go through that many, but you can definitely use as much or as little as you want, based on how much flavor you get. So working semi-quick to keep everything kind of cool. Again, you don't want this to dissolve. You want these the granules of the sea salt to stay as coarse as possible, even though we're soaking it down. So just squeeze all your juice in there, or as much as you want in there. Until you've got it saturated the way you want it. I personally like to soak the hell out of it. I love lime, and I love to get a lot of that flavor, worked in there. Typically, you use a couple of shakers of, or grinders of salt. You can go through about 3 or 4, limes, until you really have a good saturation going on the salt. Don't forget to cut up a couple of slices for your Corona while you're at it here. Nothing worse than killing your last lime and realizing there's nothing left for your beer. So don't screw that up. Key point. Once you got it good and saturated, what we're going to do is we're going to get it into the fridge or the freezer. You can even alternate back and forth because the cooling process of the refrigerator actually dries out the air in there. So we're going to get it back in there to keep everything cold, and then basically again keep the salt from dissolving, and basically going to leave it in there until it dries up completely, and we're left with just caked together salt. Personally, I like to break it up and then add some more lime juice in there. Like I said, I really, dig the lime flavor. And, again, I saturate it a couple of times and then get it back in the freezer, once it's double saturated, and the juice is condensed down. Once you got it all dry, it probably take a couple of days of sitting in there, and then the more times you want to, coat it, again, the longer it's going to take. But for me, it's worth it because this will last me about a year, or 6 months at the very least. So again, once it's dried up, you basically break it up and spread it out onto a oven safe baking sheet, something you can heat up. Because what we're going to do is we actually have to put it in the oven and dry it or almost toast it, until it's not sticky anymore. Basically what you're going to get is you're going to get a little bit of color out of it as the sugars caramelize a little bit, and it's really going to actually bring out the sweetness in the lime. So, once you've got that done, you really only want to kind of do that on, maybe 100 degrees, put it in there for an hour or two. You'll feel it, when it stops being sticky. You can test it and taste its deliciousness along the way and whatnot, but do not burn it because, you can ruin it. Then basically you can just take your, the shakers that you got. Make sure you don't throw out the shakers, the grinders that you, got the salt in, because you can put it, right back in there. And then, this will, end up, giving you a little more volume than what you originally started with. You know, the lime juice, and when it solidifies and dehydrates, actually, creates volume. So you'll have enough to refill the couple of shakers that you started out with, and then, you'll have a little bit left over that you can, kind of package up and stash away to, refill this when you're getting a little bit low. And, basically, at that point, you've got a fantastic seasoning that's just tremendous, for really, I mean, just about any kind of food you can think of. And again, it lasts a long time. So basically, if you're making anything like fajitas or even on a steak or whatnot, it can definitely substitute some of the fattier sauces, cream sauces or dressings or anything of that nature that you're trying to get away from, or just use it on top of it. Basically anything you got going, especially with any kind of Spanish food or grilled foods, or it really can go on about anything that lime will work with. And just go to town. It's great stuff, delicious. I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for watching.